Okay. I made you host.
Okay.
Okay, I'm wrapping up now. You can continue.
Okay. So let me share my screen. See, our requirement, like today we'll be discussing about API-led connectivity. Okay. So our requirement is like we have a menu list API requirement, which is needed to build a page in a mobile app. Okay. So what this menu list API need to do is we need to fetch data from database. Okay. So source is a mobile application. Okay. Destination, like from where you need to fetch data, is uh, database. Okay. And mobile application can only understand JSON format. Okay. So data format that you are going to use is JSON. Okay. So these are the details that you need to start with development. Okay. So you need to build menu list API. So like I said, you can write everything in single project itself. Okay. But we have to break down it into three parts. One is experience API, another is process API, and system API. Okay. So the reason is like first thing, we want to avoid like more traffic into database. Okay. By means of enabling cache in the process or system API, wherever we have database connector. Okay. Wherever we want to implement cache. Okay. So second thing is like we need to create abstraction. Okay. So that client application cannot directly interact with database. Okay. Because all the database connector and logic remains in system API. Okay. So this is purely meant for connecting to backend systems. Okay. So client applications should not be able to directly hit system API, okay, or process API for that matter. Okay. They should only interact with experience API. Okay. So in process API, you write core business logic. Okay. So in process API, you write core business logic. Okay. So in experience API, you write like it interacts with client applications. Okay. So this is where you apply policies or not. Okay. So you sometimes you might get requirement only like this one word like description like that. Okay, in Jira ticket they'll simply mention these details. Okay, saying what you need to build. Okay, what is the data format, what is the source, and what is the backend system. Okay, so they'll give these many details and ask you to get started with development. Okay, so for that, like before you start with development, you should get started with so you should create your own Anypoint platform account. So you should get started with API specification. Okay. So the purpose of API specification is, for example, let's say, so this is being handled by different team. Okay. So this is being handled by middleware engineering team, which is basically millions of developers. Okay. So this is being handled by middleware engineering team. Okay. So this part of process is handled by UI team. Okay. UI developers. Okay. So these two are different teams and different parties. Okay. So there should be agreement between them. There should be agreement between them. Okay. In such a way that like whatever data, like whatever request I'm going to send it to middleware engineering team, it should return data in my desired format. Okay, so there should be agreement between UI developers and middleware engineer. Okay, so my development might take around 5 days. Okay, so I may have given effort to start with my development for about 5 days. Okay, so whereas UI developers may take only 2 days. Okay, so since they're dependent on me as a middleware engineer, I am blocking their work for 5 days. Okay, which means I'm not able to provide a service for them. Like I'm not able to provide an API which returns a response for them. Okay, so in order to avoid this, what MuleSoft has done is they came up with something called API specification. Okay, API specification, which is written in RAML language. Okay, RESTful API modeling language. Okay, so this API specification is like a skeleton structure. Okay, skeleton structure of your API. Okay, so this will explain what are the resource paths. Okay, what are the resource paths, then what are the methods that are there. Okay, and what is the sample request that you can send to that resource path. Okay, and what is the sample response that you can get from resource path. Okay, you can mention all these things in API specification. Okay, and also MuleSoft has given an opportunity to create a mock API. Okay, so you can create a mock API. Okay, so which will basically generate an example URL. Okay, so if you hit that example URL, you should be able to get some response based on the request you send. Okay, so it can also validate your request, like whether you have passed all the required query parameters or like key value pairs in resource body. So everything it can validate. Okay, so that is the purpose of API specification. So MuleSoft has given platform for this. Okay, in form of design center. Okay, so here if you go to the landing page, okay, let it load. So you can write API specification, okay, in design center. Okay, so design center is purely for developers. Okay, so they can define API specification. Okay, so once they define API specification, if they're clear with their requirements, resource paths, methods, sample requests and responses, they can publish it to Exchange. Okay, Exchange is place like Exchange is something like API catalog. Okay, so in Exchange you can find all the API specifications that the other developers or other people have created in your organization. Okay, and you can go through their API specification or documentation. Okay, so which will explain what is the sample request that you need to pass, what type of response you might expect. All these details can be shown in interactive way. Okay, so that is the main purpose of Exchange. Okay, so it will have API catalog. Okay, so once developer is done defining the API specification, they will publish that API specification to Exchange, and in Exchange like it's like a API catalog. Whatever APIs that are published by other developers also, you can see them there. Okay, so that is the purpose of Exchange. Okay, so now let's come back to our requirement. Okay, menu list API. Okay, so this is the requirement I have got in simple terms. Okay, and this is the API-led connectivity structure I intended to follow. Okay, so it may be as per standard or it may be as per my flavor of development. Okay, so it can be anything. So few companies follow API-led connectivity strictly. Okay, few companies they just want the work done. Okay, so they will take care from the network level how to redirect the traffic and control the traffic to your APIs. Okay, so that means you can build only in single API. It's up to organization to decide. Okay, so for example, let's say if your organization is strictly following API-led connectivity, then you have to implement experience API, process API, and system API depending on the requirement, okay, or necessity. Okay, so here, since I have a source application as client application, backend as database, and I need some transformation to convert to JSON, I have to use all three layers. Okay, so there will be requirement where you don't need process API at all. Okay, you just need experience API and system API. Okay, we'll come to that requirement later. Okay, so for now, let's concentrate on API specification. Okay, for menu list API, client they won't even mention what resource path I need to use or what method. Okay, I have to decide. Okay, depending on the parameters that mobile app can pass. Okay, what are the parameters that mobile app can pass? Based on the notification I received from UI developer is like they can pass range query parameter. Okay, range query parameter. They can pass store ID or restaurant ID. Okay, query parameter. Okay, so they will be passing these two query parameters. Depending on these two, you need to search in database. Okay, and then fetch the result set. Okay, if these two query parameters are not passed, then you need to select everything. Okay, so what is the business rules here? So we call them as business rules. Okay, so this you should gather during requirements gathering. Okay, so while you are on call with your architect, you need to ask him all these questions. Okay, you need to know the source, you need to know the destination or backend system, and you need to know the what data format that your API is using, and you need to understand what are the business rules. Okay, business rules in the sense like if store ID is present, okay, then select available, okay, items from items table, okay, for a given storage. Okay, so this is business rule number 1. Okay, second is if range is present, okay, then select available items from all restaurants, okay, within the given range. Okay, so this is business number rule number 2. Third business rule is if both store ID and range is passed. Okay, from UI it is impossible to pass this, but let's say that is a test case. Okay, if both store ID and range are passed, okay, so return error. Okay, return error, and the error is 400 error. Okay, return 400 error with error messages, both range and store ID cannot be used as such criteria. Okay, so if none of store ID and range are passed, then return complete list of items, okay, from all restaurants in paginated manner. Okay, so pagination, so paginated manner in the sense, for example, let's say I may have around 2000 items in my items table from all restaurants. Okay, there may be duplicate, there may be unique or anything. Okay, so if you return all 2000 records at a time, mobile app cannot show all 2000 items at a time. Okay, like it can only load around 10 records per page. Okay, so if they click on next or second page, they should be able to see the next set of 10 records. Okay, so your API should be able to handle that paginated response also. Okay, so we'll discuss this later again as we proceed with development. Okay, so clear with requirement, right? So far you are clear with requirement, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So now this is the requirement I have got, and I need to get started with the development. Okay, since UI developer, they only need a mock URL to build their UI. So what I'll do is my first step is to design API specification, write RAML, publish it to Exchange, and share that Exchange URL to UI developer. That's it. Okay. So here I'll create new API specification. Okay. I call it as menu list -API. Okay. Since I'm using like I'm following API led architecture, I will be writing specification for experience API. Okay. So let me write exp-. Okay. Naming convention can be anything, like you can follow in any manner. Okay. Like few people write the layer name first and then API name. Okay, few people write API name first and then at the end they put layer name like experience or process or system. Okay, you can follow any type of naming convention depending on your organization. Okay, if your organization is using specific naming convention, then they will mention you that. Okay, saying that we are following so and so naming convention. Okay, so this is the like API like you need to mention the API specification name or the API title. So you can use any of these options. Click on create API spec.
Sir, A type layer I mean API select చేసుకోవాలని business logic బట్టి తెలుసుకోవాలి.
No. Like your like see during requirements gathering while I am writing business rules, right? So that is what I told. Like you need to check with your architect and your team. Okay.
Okay.
So what is the convention that you are following? Like, is it mandatory to use API-led connectivity, or you just need to implement in a single application? Like you need to check with your team.
Okay.
So I'm giving you all possibilities. Okay, for example, let's say if you want to write in single application, you can write like the same procedure you need to follow. Okay, but you need to create one single mule project. Okay, if you want to write like in layered architecture, I'm showing you that now. Like you need to create API specification in both the cases, but I have created for experience API alone here. Okay, so I'm showing that now. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
each layer of API will be used for different business logics, right? So you mentioned system APIs for backend systems.
it depends. It depends. For example, let's say, see in McDonald's, I'm talking about a very minor component. Okay, which is menu. Okay. So which is menu. Okay, I'm talking only about menu. Okay.
Okay.
For example, let's say I have restaurants. Okay.
Okay.
Restaurants API. Okay, I have customer API. Okay. Okay. I have offers. Okay. Offers API. Okay.
Okay.
I have a review and rating API. Okay. Review and rating. Okay. Or rating API. Okay. I have rating API. Okay. So if I have these 5 set of functional modules, okay, I need to understand what are the common things among all these. Okay, see menu is independent. Okay, so irrespective of customer or offers or rating, it will just simply query. You just need to query items table, fetch the menu list and pass it on to mobile app. That's it. Okay, whereas if you go to customers, okay, So in customers, like your developer wants to build a page, okay, for order history.
Okay.
Okay, so in order history, what are the details that you can mention, like in that page? What you can mention is order details. Okay, in order details, you can have restaurant details. Okay, which is linked to this module. Okay, restaurant details.
Price.
Okay, and rating for that restaurant. Okay, so it can be linked to this. Okay. So it can be linked to this, okay, to other modules also. Okay, in this case, what will happen if you want to build customers API in API-led architecture, you may end up only creating EXP and system. Okay, sorry, EXP and PRC. You don't have to build system because for restaurant you have this system API. Okay, from customers you can call restaurant system API. Okay. You can from customers you can call rating system API or experience API. It can be anything. Okay, you don't need system API here. You only need to implement experience and process. Okay, like this, depending on your API community or API model. Okay, we need to decide how many layers are required for each requirement.
Okay.
Okay, for customers, I only need experience and process. For menu, I need experience, process, and system because I have no other application which can give me that information.
So
Okay.
Yeah, this is the thing we have to figure out, or it will be told
It
by
will be,
architecture.
architect will guide you. Okay, as part of requirement, they have to clearly mention what you need to implement.
Okay.
Okay, so only thing that you need to work is you need to gather these business rules. Okay. So you need to check with your architect or client. Okay, you need to understand what type of validation they need. Okay, with the request payload, what I need to do, like what are the constraints that I need to worry about in the request payload. Okay, before I send response. Okay, so these type of business rules you need to gather from your architect or client. Okay, but rest everything like whatever is platform standard or coding standards that we follow across the organization, like API-led architecture, naming convention, all these things, your architect or client has to tell that, or if they don't mention, you need to ask them. Okay.
Okay.
Understood, right?
Yeah, understood.
Okay, so let's get back to API specification. Okay, so in API specification, I have this RAML declaration, which is RAML version declaration. Okay, so then we mention title, then we have version. Okay, version is always 3 decimal, like 2 decimal point value. Okay, you have to mention 1.0.0 like that. So you should never use naming convention like V1, V2 and all. Okay, so that's not standard. Okay, so 1.0.0, like this type of versioning is always standard. Okay.
Description.
Yeah, so description is up to you. Like you can either write or don't write. It's not a mandatory thing. Okay, like you can simply mention menu list EXP API like this. Okay. So this we call it as root section. Okay, in a RAML we call this section as root section. In root section, you can mention all these things like what protocols you want to use, like only HTTP or HTTPS. Okay, or you want to use both protocol, you want to support both protocols. Okay, media type in the sense what type of data you are supporting in your API, either is it only JSON or XML and JSON both. Okay, so media type. Base URI, will explain this base URI during deployment time. Okay, so I have to revisit this RAML API specification during the deployment time. At that point of time, I'll explain about base URI. Okay, what is the purpose of this base URI? Okay, so in root section, you can mention all these things: title, version, description, protocol, and media type. Okay, So there is something called header section, okay, where you can mention security schemes, traits, types, all these things. Okay, so let's come to that later, but straight away jump into resource path. Okay. So for menu list API, what resource path I can give? Okay. So resource path is something, okay, see in Java, let me open Java.
So you are not audible.
I have muted on purpose.
Okay.
See, in Java, right? For each functionality, you write a .java class. Okay. For in Java project, for each functionality, you write a .java class. Okay. Similarly, in web service, for each functionality, you define a resource path. Okay. For example, let's say if your resource path says menu or menu list, it has something to do with menu list. Okay. If your resource path says orders and slash order ID like this, so it means you can fetch order details particular to a order. Okay, to specific order you can get some details with respect to that order. Okay, so resource path basically talks about what type of functionality you are implementing, okay, in web service. Okay, so resource path details also client will be sharing with you. Okay, so for now I have mentioned menu list. Okay, so after you configure the resource path, you need to configure method. Okay, like I said, HTTP protocol. This is a RESTful web service, right? For RESTful web service, we can do modeling using only RAM. Okay, whereas for SOAP web service, you can do it using WSDL. Okay, web service description language. Okay, you can do it using WSDL. Okay, for RESTful web services, you'll be using standard HTTP protocol based implementation. Okay, so since we are using HTTP protocol itself, HTTP protocol will have methods. Okay, so if your customer or client application is trying to retrieve data from you, then use get method. Okay, if they're trying to send some data to your application, then you need to use post, put or patch depending on your requirement. Okay, so that you need to configure the method here. Okay, so after you configure the method, you should go back to your business rules and you need to understand, okay, what you are receiving here. Okay, so here you can accept two parameters. One is store ID and range, okay, as query parameters. So under method, you need to configure the parameters or headers or anything. Okay, see under method you can configure all these types of entities. Okay, you can configure headers, you can configure query parameters, you can configure a body, but for get method, body is not supported. Okay, but for post method, body is supported. Okay, you can configure all these entities. Okay, so under query parameters, we need to define our own value. Okay, so that's why it's not showing any suggestion here. Okay, so for this store ID, you can mention these many values. Okay, like you can mention either it is a mandatory field or not. If it's a mandatory field, you need to mention required as true. If it is optional field, you need to mention required as false. Okay, so for example, you have particular set of values for this store ID. Okay, that means you support only one store ID number one, store ID number two, like those values. Okay, then you can use enumeration. Okay, so in enumeration, you can mention these values like this. Okay, so this will basically support only 1, 2, 3 values for this store ID. Okay, so whatever values you configure. Okay, so you can mention pattern, you can like regex pattern. Okay, if you are expecting a value like value something like store star, you can mention that. Okay, like whatever comes after store, you need to consider that as a whole string as store ID. Okay, so you can mention pattern. Okay, you can mention minimum length and maximum length that you need to receive for this store ID. For example, let's say store ID cannot exceed 10 characters or 10 digits. Okay, then you can configure max length as 10. Okay, so if it is a custom data type, like where you want to receive complex information, okay, then you can refer, like you can define your own type, your own data type, and then you can refer that under type. Okay, or you can mention like what type of data you're dealing with. Okay, is it a number or anything? Okay, understood, right? So you need to configure query parameter in this way. So then we have range. Okay, so range is also same. Okay,
Jagadish, required field is by default it is a false or true.
by default it's false.
Okay, then if you not mentioned also it is false, right?
Yeah, it is false, but just to make sure, like for example, let's say this is the API catalog, okay, that it is visible in Exchange. Okay, if I go here, if I don't know that store ID or range are optional field, what I'll think, so those are mandatory fields. Okay, that's why we explicitly need to mention that those are optional or required.
Okay.
Okay, so even though you don't have to mention, it's a good practice to mention that.
Okay.
Okay, so after you configure query parameters, okay, so you can configure responses. Okay, see if you observe here, RAML is space intended. Space intended in the sense, even a tab space matters here under what hierarchy it falls. Okay, for example, let's say I have this get method line here. Okay, whatever I define in parallel to this get method column, so that is along with that methods as a different entity for this resource path. Okay, so that means I can have one more method here. Okay, so which will create, a different entity here. Okay, under this resource path. Okay, so whatever I write in parallel to the previous column, it falls under same hierarchy. Okay, so if I give a enter and then with the tab space, if I write something, that will fall under the previous entity, which is query parameters. Okay, so we have to mention you should be aware that RAML is space intended. Okay, so under get method, I need to configure response. Okay, not under resource path. Under resource path, I won't be able to configure anything. Okay, I can only configure methods under resource path. Okay, or few policies. I can apply few policies under policies in the sense security schemes under resource path. Okay, apart from that, I can't do anything under resource path. Okay, so if I want to configure sample request, sample response, and everything, I should be able to configure under method alone. Okay, so here I need to configure the response. Okay, in responses, you have option to configure responses for all status codes. Okay, you have option to configure response for success status code. You have option to configure response for failure status code. For everything you can configure responses. Okay, let's say you are configuring for success status code. Okay, which is responses 200 body, then you just need to give example. Okay, or you can mention what type of response you are receiving. Okay, under that response, see now this example is invalid because it was at same level as application/JSON. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so under application/JSON you need to configure the example. Okay, so I have the sample response. Okay, okay, so I have this sample response. I'll simply copy paste this response. Okay, this response also you should get it from your system team, or like in few organizations they call it in different ways. Okay, You have to get it from client. Okay. So while configuring the example, there are two options. Either you can copy paste everything here under example. Okay. Excuse me. So if you if you copy paste the response here,
Or else we
your
create a
RAM,
folder.
sorry.
Or else we can create a folder and copy.
Yeah. So this will be clumsy. Okay. So instead of that, what you need to do is you can maintain your own structure. Like you can directly simply create a file, or you can create a folder and maintain it. Like you can create a folder, name it as examples. Under the examples, you can create request.json or any name that you want to give, some meaningful name.
So
Okay.
we have to change.
So meaningful name. Okay. So here you can copy paste that and refer that file here using exclamation
Hash
include.
include examples.
Okay. So you just need to refer that under examples. Okay. So this way you can configure the API specification. Okay. So for example, see during API specification, what are all the logic related things that you can decide is if you want to use JWT based authentication, and if you want to use your own headers for that. Okay. So you can write those headers here. Okay, under get method. Okay. Or under method, you can write headers here. Okay. If you want to receive that as part of authorization header, then you can receive authorization header itself. Okay.
Sir,
Or
what are headers actually?
headers. Okay. So in HTTP, okay. So while sending request, you can specify server, like what type of data you are sending. Okay. Like you can send custom data also. Okay. What type of data you are sending. Okay. This is something, headers will contain information related to your request.
Okay.
Okay. Headers will contain information related to your request, which means you can send what type of data you are sending. You can send from which host I am sending, via what user agent. Okay. You can also specify your custom headers. Okay. Like if you want to maintain some client ID and client secret, you can give your own headers. Okay. If your server can understand these headers, you can send those custom headers, client ID and client secret like this. Okay.
Can we build those custom headers in Design Center?
Yeah, see headers. Yeah, see here I can specify. See, so I can define client ID here.
Okay.
Okay, so I can define client ID here. I can define client secret. Okay.
Okay.
You can define client secret here. Okay.
Okay.
So we can configure custom headers also.
Okay.
Okay. And then based on the values you accept, you can write logic related to that client ID and client secret. If you want to validate those client ID and client secret are valid by different means, you can do that. Okay.
This is same as like subject in the email.
Correct. Yeah. But see, using subject, like you can mention, like you can in emails, if you use subject, it can only talk about few details with respect to your email. Okay, it cannot. Yeah, you cannot mention everything related to your emails.
I overgeneralized.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's say we'll come back to this RAML specification during advanced discussion. Okay, we'll write security schemes. We'll define traits. Okay, we'll write some documentation. Okay, so how much ever you discuss on RAML, that is not much fruitful. Okay, now, so this is the API specification I have created for menu list with get method. Okay, so now the next step would be I need to publish this to Exchange. Okay. So while publishing to exchange, the initial version you need to mention here with what version you need to start. Okay, like in few companies they start straight away with the 2.0.0 something like that. Okay, so but generally they start with 1.0.0 itself. Okay, so you need to mention the asset version initially. Okay, next time when you make some changes, then you don't have to mention this. Okay, it will automatically increment. Okay, so in more options you can mention business group ID. For example, let's say you are part of 3 different business groups. Okay, and you want to publish this API specification to all business groups. Okay, like for example, let's say I'm part of McDonald's retail, McDonald's IT, and McDonald's customer. Okay, so I want to publish this API specification to all these three business groups in AnyPoint platform. Okay, so I can mention to which business group I need to publish and then click on publish to exchange. Okay, so that is how you can share a YAML specification between multiple business organizations. Okay, so let it publish to exchange. Okay, so once you publish this, if you go to exchange, okay, for example, let's say as a developer, my job is done with publishing that to exchange. Okay, now as a UI developer, I don't know about MuleSoft much except from exchange. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll go to exchange. Excuse me, I'll see the list of APIs available. I need to work on menu list API. So I'll open the menu list API. Okay, here I can see the endpoints that are configured here. Okay, so here I can see what are the request details that I need to send. Okay, it can be headers or query parameters or anything. Okay, and I can also see sample response that I can get. Okay, so here there is this sample like mock URL. Okay, so if I open this mock URL, see here, just a second. Okay, I have not enabled mocking. Okay, let me enable mocking. Okay.
Bro, click on that settings button.
Settings.
Right side. No, down. Last one. Under setting, third one is there, right?
Settings. I could go.
Publish పక్కన సెట్టింగ్స్ ఉందా, దాని కింద థర్డ్ బటన్, థర్డ్ అది కాదు దాని కింద థర్డ్.
సార్ బ్యాక్ టు డాక్యుమెంట్స్ పక్కన
Okay.
They changed. Earlier it was there.
Yeah, correct. Okay. So now I got this resource top default. So I need to give menu list. Where's the source? Okay, so here it says required header client ID is missing. Okay, because I have set client ID as mandatory. Okay, so let's set this as false. Okay, for now, and then publish it again to exchange. So this will automatically increment from the initial value you have given. If I give 2.0.0 initially, it will increment to 2.0.1. Okay. So once I publish this, if I hit this URL again, I should be able to see the response here. Okay, so this URL is enough for me. Okay, using this URL as a UI developer, I can proceed. Okay, so I just need response from your API, and I have received the response as part of this URL itself. Okay, until you complete your development as a middleware engineer, I'll continue with this mocking URL itself. Okay, so from Exchange, I can go to your API specification. Okay, and then check like what are the endpoints available, what is the sample request and response that is there. Okay, I can capture the mock URL and configure that URL in my UI development. Okay, so once you are done with API specification, coming back to MuleSoft development, you need to start with your development. Okay, so download this API specification. Okay, so there are two different ways this can be handled. Okay, so one way is, so create the project first. Okay, Mule project, exp hyphen, because it's a menu list experience API, right? Exp hyphen menu list API. Okay, so here you can import a published API. Okay, so go to this, load it from Exchange. Okay, you need to add your account here. Okay, you will have to log into Anypoint platform from here. Okay, just a second, let me look up the credential. Okay, okay, so now search for menu list. Okay, whatever is published, you should be able to see it here. Okay, so exp menu list API, add this as a dependency. Okay, and then click on finish. The reason you need to select it as a dependency is, see, if you download the YAML manually and then configure the YAML file here, it's of no use, because if there are any changes in your API specification, you can never track them unless until you are notified. Okay, so that's why you need to add it as a dependency. Okay, just a second, it's not responding. Okay, so as soon as you import that from Exchange, right, it will automatically create a dependency. See, earlier, if you manually copy paste in source main resources API folder, you should be able to see your YAML and dependent files. But now it is added as a dependency. Okay, so let's make one more change in this API specification and observe how the behavior is. Okay, so we can check if it is if the change can be tracked in Anypoint Studio or not. I'll make them as mandatory again. Okay, and then publish to Exchange. Okay, so this is published to Exchange. Okay, so here, if you go to right click on this your project, go to manage dependencies and manage APIs. If you click on this, you can see that there is a blue icon which says there is a newer version available. Okay, so just click on update version, apply and close. Okay, so this will ask you again to scaffold this specification. That means whatever updates are there, the project metadata will get refreshed. Okay, if you have new resources, it will create additional private flows like this. Okay, so for that purpose, you need to add it as a dependency. Okay, so now the API specification management is easier. Okay, you don't have to worry about people changing your YAML spec. Okay, you don't have to worry about like the files are getting deleted or something. Okay, so because you have added it as a dependency, which is being directly fetched from Exchange, endpoint Exchange. Okay, understood, right?
Yeah, understand.
Yeah, okay. So this is the skeleton structure. It will automatically create based on the YAML spec you have given. Okay, so it will create one main flow which will have one HTTP listener and API kit router along with the default set of error handling. Okay, it will create one console flow which will have listener and API kit console. Okay, and it will create one private flow. Okay, like depending on the number of methods you have in your API specification, it will create those many number of private flows. Okay, if you have two methods, irrespective of number of resource paths, if you have, for example, if I have two resource paths and three methods, okay, so it will create three private flows. Okay, so depending on the number of methods, it will create those many number of resource like private flows here. Okay, and the naming convention is like method colon resource path colon API kit router configuration name. Okay, whatever is the API kit router configuration name here, it will append that to the flow name. Okay, so that if you hit a URL, it will come to API kit router. It will, depending on the naming convention, it will automatically search for that private flow and give a flow reference from here. Okay, so that it will automatically redirect it to this flow itself. Okay, so here you need to write your logic. Okay, in this private flow, you need to write your logic, either to hit database or either to call process API, whatever it is, you need to write here. Okay, so for today, like try to create an endpoint platform account. Try to write a simple, like a very basic API specification like this. Okay, create a mule project and add API specification as a dependency. Okay, so today you try this. Okay, so tomorrow we'll discuss further on the error handling and project structure and everything. Okay, with respect to experience API. So any doubts?
Hi, Jagdish.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, yesterday you will explain the how to configure the this mule dependency, right?
Mule dependency in the sense I didn't get
No.
it. Like,
This transform message. So,
yeah, we'll come to that. Okay, so we are
Okay.
still at beginning. Okay,
okay.
we are still at beginning. So without explaining this, if I straight away get into data view and Maven dependencies and everything, it will be confusing. You won't be able to understand anything. Okay, see, now for till now, what I have done is like I have showed how to create API specification. After publishing, how UI developers or client applications can use that published API. Okay, how to enable mock service, then how to create mule project with API specification as a Maven dependency. Instead of directly copy pasting in API folder, you should add it as a Maven dependency. So it will be useful for you. Okay. Most of the companies, like few companies, they directly copy paste it into API folder. Okay. So which is not a good practice.
Okay.
So that is one thing. Okay. Next, we are going to refactor our experience API as per like common coding standards. Okay. Like we need to restructure this application. Okay.
Okay.
Once you get familiar with project restructuring, then how to externalize data view files. Okay. How to configure HTTPS like listener configuration. How to define key stores, like create key stores. Once you understand all these things, then it will be easier for you to understand more advanced topics going forward. Okay, so this is just beginning.
Okay.
Maybe I have a doubt.
Yeah.
Like depend upon that resource path, API git routers will be created. Or
Yeah. Yeah, resource path and method both.
okay.
Okay.
And
So if you see here, I have this menu list resource path and get method. Okay. I only have these two. Okay, say method and resource path.
hello.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, method and resource path. Okay. So what it will do, it will create flow, private flow with method colon resource path colon API kit router configuration name.
Okay.
Okay. With that naming convention, it will create private flows. Okay. For example, let's say I have another resource path. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say sample. Okay. In this, I have get method and post method. Okay. So I have 3 methods here on total for this complete API specification. Okay.
Mhm.
So now 3 private flows will be generated.
Okay.
Okay.
But same in same API kit router, 3 methods will be generated.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
private
Correct.
flows.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, Jagdish.
Yeah.
Can we have any recordings for previous classes?
Yeah. You need to check with Kishore on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sir, could you tell could you repeat that creating the Maven? Hello?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. See, here, why if you create a new mule project, okay.
Okay.
Just a second. Okay. See, if you're creating a new project, okay, like menu list API -exp or anything, okay. I already have a mule project with exp menu list API. I can't give that same name. Okay. So I have given this. Okay. So now, while creating project itself, you can add, like you can import a published API from Exchange. Okay.
Okay.
So you can import a published API from Exchange by logging into your MuleSoft account. Okay. You
Okay.
can search here for menu list.
Okay.
Okay. Just a second. See, once you search, you should be able to find your API which is published to Exchange. Okay,
Okay.
with latest version that is available in Exchange. Okay,
Okay.
so you can import specific version also. For example, let's say if you want to import initial version, you can select 1.0.0 and import that specific version. Okay, reason is, see, as and when you increase versions, that means there is some change in API specification. Either you may have added additional resources or additional methods like that. Okay, I may need only this method and this resource path, which is available as part of 1.0.1.
Okay.
Okay, so I may need additional resource path which is added as part of latest version. Okay, so I can select whichever version I need. Okay, and then click on finish. Okay, so again, if you click on finish, it will create flows automatically. So this is one method. Okay,
Okay.
let's say you don't want to import it here. Okay, you just want to create a mule project. Just create a mule project first. Okay, so after you create a mule project, right click on the mule project, go to manage dependencies, then manage APIs, click on add from Exchange. Okay, now search for your API specification in Exchange. Okay, so same process. So select the particular version that you want to use and click on apply and close. So it will ask either to scaffold this or not. Scaffold in the sense, it will read the API specification RAML file and it will generate like code related to that default code. Okay, see here it has created see, this file was created when I created a mule project. Okay, and this file got created when I scaffolded the RAML API specification. Okay, it has given new name because whatever the title I have given, based on that it will name the XML. It will create a new XML.
Okay.
Okay, so that is the main use. Understood, right?
No, sir. You asked that, you told me that don't copy paste that in while creating the Maven. Create like that you said.
Okay. Okay. See here. So you understood about adding the dependency, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what will happen if you add dependency? That also you understood, right?
Yes.
You can track changes whenever there is a change in API specification. Okay.
Yes. Correct.
So the normal practice is, let me download this project. Okay, from Design Center or from Exchange. Okay, from Exchange also I can download it as a RAML. Okay, I can download it as a RAML zip file. Okay, so I have downloaded it as a RAML zip file. Okay, I have downloaded this as a RAML zip file. Okay, what I'll do, I'll extract all this. Okay, I'll extract all these files to local one itself. Okay, now again I'll create new project. Okay, so then menu list hyphen API. Okay, so finish. Okay, so under API you need to copy all these folders and files under API folder. Okay, so this is the normal practice. Okay, then you need to right click on your project, go to mule and generate flows from local REST API.
Okay.
Then it will generate this code. Okay,
Okay.
disadvantage of this is you have option to edit this YAML file here itself. Okay, you don't want to do it in Design Center and Exchange and all. You can do it from local itself.
Okay.
Okay, so if you do it from local, nobody is aware of your changes.
Okay.
Okay, so which is a bad practice.
Yes.
Okay? So if you add it as a dependency and if you make some changes, everyone are aware of those changes, and your project can also be directly synced from Exchange dependency. Okay, so if you see here in pom.xml, so you should be able to see that dependency.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the dependency that I have added. This group ID is nothing but our organization ID. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
this is the organization ID.
Okay.
Okay, so organization ID given to this. Okay, understood, right?
Yeah.
So this is added as a dependency, and this one you have manually copy pasted by downloading the files.
Okay.
Okay. So if you implement, like if you manually copy paste the files, it will still work. But the only thing is, if anybody makes some changes for this YAML file, you can never track them in Design Center or Exchange.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So any more doubts?
No, sir.
Jagdish, if I do procedure like clicking on the project, and if I choose any point platform, can I also do like that? I mean, can I also do like that, right?
Yeah, you can do.
Uh,
Like you can
any point platform,
say you can go to any point platform,
download
then
from Design
download.
Center.
Yeah, that also you can do.
So
But
Mm.
yeah,
if I make any changes, so
Yeah.
how I can look into that? I mean, if I do any changes in any point platform, I want to update it in Anypine Studio. So how is that?
okay. No, that we cannot track. That can never be tracked from here. See, if you do some changes in YAML, okay, and if you want to track in Design Center, that is not possible.
No. If I make any changes, see, I imported from Anypine platform to Anypine Studio. If I
Okay.
make changes in Anypine platform and I want to update those changes in Anypine Studio, so how is that?
See here we have added it as a dependency, right? Right click
Yeah.
this, go to manage dependencies and manage APIs. So here you can track them.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Manage
So for
APIs,
example,
okay.
let's say I have made some change here. So let me publish it. So here I don't have latest version notification yet. Okay. So after I publish this, so if I click on refresh here, see here, it is asking me to update version. So if you simply put cursor here, it will show the new version that is available. Okay, click on update version and apply close.
Can you show me that navigation one more time?
Okay. Right click on the project,
Right click.
manage dependencies,
Dependency.
manage APIs, and then here you need, if you don't have anything here, you need to add it from Exchange here. Okay, you need to click on add from Exchange, then you need to search for your API specification.
Sir, what is that from Maven? While clicking on the right click, you'll
Both
got
are same. Both are
okay.
same. See,
Okay.
if you are aware of these coordinates, right? Like if you are
Dependency.
aware of, if you are aware of this dependency, you can directly add it. Okay. If you are not aware of this dependency, then you can click from you can check from Exchange.
Okay.
Okay, Jagdish. Perfect, Jagdish. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jagdish, if you add dependency,
Mhm.
it will automatically update in the Anypine Studio, right? Or we have to check every time.
You need to check. You need to check. See, you need to go to manage dependencies and APIs, and you need to check here.
Okay.
Okay.
So adding dependency will give you an option, updating the flows, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you didn't add the dependency, you never know what is the latest version. You have to be notified by someone.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, see now it has created 3 flows because I have 3 methods. Okay, so on 2 resource paths. So in interview, few people might ask, like, if I have 2 methods and 3 resource paths, how many private flows will be generated if I scaffold the YAML in Point Studio? So the answer is based on the number of methods. That's it. So whatever is the method count, those many private flows will be generated. So, understood, right?
Yes, Jagdish.
Yeah, okay. So let's continue tomorrow. For today, create API specification, like say any simple API specification that you design. Okay. Then create a mule project and add it as a dependency. Like try both options, adding it as a dependency as well as copy pasting it to class path in the sources.
Sir,
What
one
would be the
last
best
question.
practice, Jagdish? Like adding
Best,
dependency?
best practice is always adding dependency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, one last question.
Yeah.
If same method is repeated between two different resource paths, then two flows will create, right?
No, see, that's why don't get confused. Either it is same method or a different method.
Okay.
Okay. So you need to count the methods here. How many other methods you have? Even if it is same or duplicate, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Okay.
See, method might be same, but resource path is different, right?
Yeah.
So that uniqueness comes from resource path.
Okay.
Okay. So that uniqueness comes from resource path. But the method can be repeating.
Okay.
But
Sir.
in same resource path you cannot have same methods.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Same
if I
method
have
can be.
get already, I cannot define one more get.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So that is wrong. So it
Okay.
will simply say duplicate key.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Jagdish, one more thing. Like initially you said some companies follow this API-led connectivity and some companies they won't, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like after finishing this, can you show us like what would be the difference like between if they follow API-led connectivity, if we won't follow API-led connectivity, so how the process works?
Yeah. So I'll show you live projects itself.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have everything ready. So once I'm done with these basics and everything, I'll show you live projects.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's continue tomorrow.
Thank you, Jagdish.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jagdish.
Thank you,
Ganesh.
Thank you, Jagdish.
Thank you.